Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. At a recent flea market I picked up the remains of an X-Wing, as you can see here. The guy wanted £5 for it, which is a little bit overpriced, but I just couldn't walk by and leave the ship there as it was. As you can see, it's in reasonable condition. There's a fair amount of yellowing and staining to the body, and it's missing, well, it does have the stickers, but they're in a pretty shoddy state. And also the wing sort of mechanism is a little bit busted, but that's easy enough to fix. So I thought it would be a great idea to restore this one. I know the guys over at Retro Blasting have restored an X-Wing in their videos, but they restored the American version, which has the electronics. It has a light in the front and a button on the back to make a laser sound. The UK release, as you can see here, doesn't have those elements and is actually constructed in a different way. So I'll show you how to take it apart and show you what the insides of it look like. So as soon as I got this, I posted a picture of it up on my Facebook account, and very generously Tristan Howden got in touch and has also donated another X-Wing that he had spare. So I'm going to use the best of both of these to make one sort of very nice X-Wing out of the two. And also, like my recent Snowspeeder restoration, I think rather than recreating this to be exactly as the original X-Wing was, I'm going to make some custom stickers for it and make it look a little bit more screen accurate than the toy originally did. So first thing we need to do is get this ship apart and give it a good clean. Getting the ship apart is a fairly straightforward job. There are only 4 screws that hold this X-Wing together. There's 2 on the top, as you can see here, and then there's 2 on the bottom in the nose section. There's one right at the end of the nose, and then there's one hidden if you put the landing gear down at the bottom there underneath the landing gear. So we just have to unscrew this and the ship will come apart. Now that I've taken the screws out, we can go ahead and take this apart. Very straightforward. You just pull the top section off like so, and then you can see the main wing section there. Again, this is just held in with 2 screws, so if we unscrew that, we can then take the whole wing assembly out of the ship. So here we have the wing assembly taken out of the ship. Now, the catch that holds the wings in place when you press R2 down is this little bit here. It's a small piece of plastic with a spring on it. And the reason that this sometimes fails is that the plastic of the R2 head ends up with a little chip in it. As you can see here, I've actually already rotated this one just to get it working, and it's that slight chip that stops the mechanism working. And the way to fix it is simply take off R2's head and turn it round, and then it will fix it. So when we come to put this together, I have to make sure that the R2 head is round the wrong way from how it was originally, and that little chip is facing forwards rather than backwards. Now, to get the wings apart, you need to turn this whole section over, and if you push R2 down, you can then push out this metal pin that keeps the 2 wings together, and then it's a little bit of a fiddly job, but the R2 head itself is held on with these 2 clips here, and you just have to sort of push that around a bit until they ping through the wing sections, like so. That's one done. You can do, it's a little bit fiddly, but it can be done. And once you've done that, then the whole of this top section falls apart and you're left with the 2 wing pieces, left and right, and the R2 section. Again, this can then be taken apart. There's a screw at the bottom of the head. You can just unscrew that like so, and then there's a spring to keep and the inner bit of plastic like so. So there we have the first X-Wing in pieces. I'm going to take the other one that Tristan Howden sent me to pieces as well, and I'm going to give these a good wash and a clean. I'm not going to bother showing you how I wash and clean ships, as I've shown you that many times before. If you need to see it, check out some of my other videos and you can see how I wash and clean them using hot soapy water and lighter fluid to remove all the stickers and any residue. So let's get this all cleaned and we'll look at the next stage. So I've now given both ships a good clean, and these are the best parts from both ships here, and this is enough to build one good X-Wing. As you can see though, this wing and a few parts of this ship have some staining on them. This is actually glue that's stained the plastic here. A lot of the parts on the X-Wing are glued together. The top parts of the engines are glued onto the wings, and the glue that they used back in the 70s goes a very strange sort of, well, it's almost a flesh tone colour over the years, and really quite stains and damages the wing plastic, and you can't actually get rid of that. So there's not a lot I can do to remove that. And actually to me it doesn't look too bad. It sort of makes the engines look a little bit dirty, and I've decided that in this restoration and sort of customization I'm not going to go for a minty white X-Wing. I quite like the sort of the fact it's got a little bit of age to it, so this sort of damage here to me in this restoration is not going to be a problem. I know some people would want to get rid of it, and in fact you just cannot get rid of that staining. It's there for good. So sometimes things can't be restored perfectly, but this for me is going to be good enough because I want to make one that looks a little bit sort of more play worn and battered, but in a slightly more sort of screen accurate style. So let's go ahead and start putting this ship back together. When you take the ship apart, one bit that it's actually quite awkward to get out is the seat where the figure sits. It is possible to do, but it just takes a little bit of patience. I actually managed to get the seat out of both of these ships. You just have to wiggle it from side to side, and it will just pop out. It's not glued in. It's just pushed in with a couple of pegs. So first off, I've got to push this back into place, and you have to push it in quite firmly so that it sits right at the bottom of the ship. And then the leg landing gear also needs to go in, and this needs to go that way round so that it's pointing towards the front, which means you have to sort of slot it through the small gap at the back, and then it just sits in place. And that's the whole of the bottom of the ship ready to go. Now we need to put back together the wing locking mechanism, and that is the bit that involves R2's head. So what you have for this are two plastic parts and a large spring. The white plastic part goes through the hole in the bottom of the sort of black section here, and then the spring goes on top of those two bits there. Now this is where you have to remember which way round the head goes, because the little pin bit that sort of holds the head down and so locks the wings in place actually catches on this lip on the edge of R2's head. And what happens over years is if you can see there's a slight notch cut out of the plastic, and that's where this bit of plastic of the pin rubs against the lip of the R2 head and scrapes it away. And so over time this pin doesn't have enough plastic to catch on, and so the wings easily come out of the X position. So the way to fix this is to actually put this head on the other way around. So as you can see, there's a notch here. This is the front part of the ship, and this is the rear part of the ship with the peg on. So all we've got to do is turn R2's head around and then put that back in place that way around, and then the locking foil should work perfectly. And then we just need to screw R2's head back on. So just put a screw in the bottom and we're good to go. Now we need to put together the wing section. Now these have a definite top and bottom. The bottom side obviously has the landing gear sort of section on it. So what you've got to do is get the two wings and then slot them together and just rotate them so that they're flat like that. As you can see now, the wings look like they should in flight mode. Then we take the R2 section. Now this has a definite front and back. The back end has this peg on it, the front end doesn't, and so it's got to go that way round, and you have to slot these two white bits of plastic through the two holes on here. Again, it's fairly sort of easy to do. It does require bending the plastic a little bit, but it does just sort of ping through in the end. So let's get these doing one at a time, and let's just get that done. As I say, it is a little bit on the fiddly side, but it is possible to do. It just takes a little bit of perseverance. And there we have it. And now we need to put the metal rod back in that was across the bottom section here. Now to do that, here's the metal rod. The best way to do it is to hold the black plastic and to push down on R2's head, and that pushes the wing section out slightly. Then you can just slot the metal rod back in and position it into the two notches at each end of the black plastic, and there we have the wing section back together. So we can now put the rest of the ship back together. So now we can screw the wing section into the ship. This just slots onto the four pegs in the middle of the body, and then this is only screwed on using two screws. There are clearly four screw holes, two at the back and two at the front, but obviously the toy company wanted to save a bit of money, and so actually there are only two screws used, and they go on the opposite sides. So put one top left and one bottom right. And now before we put the final part of the ship back together, you need to put in the small pin that is the release mechanism for the X-wings when they're locked in position, and that just goes underneath and behind R2's head there, and this is what enables you to sort of pull it back and release the wing. So now that we've turned his head round, if we slot this all back together, the mechanism should work perfectly. So let's get this ship screwed back together and we can test the X-wings. Now that the X-wings back together, we can test that the locking mechanism works on these wings. So if I push R2's head down like so, you can see that the wings lock in place, and if I then pull the catch, they unlock. So that's the X-wing mechanism fixed, and it's an easy thing to do. Just have to remember, turn the head around. So that's it for part one. I'd just like to say a quick thank you to R2u Dirks from the Netherlands, who've kindly sent me this cockpit. It's not in the greatest of conditions, but it's a good start. It's missing a bit on the corner and needed a little bit of work on the back there to get it to fit, but it's better than nothing. And I also had a quick search in my toolbox and found one spare gun bit, so I still got to find 4 more. If you have any of these and would like to help out on this restoration, then please get in touch. I'll happily trade these for other bits and bobs, or even one of my limited edition toy-polloi badges. So join me in part 2 when I'm going to be looking at making some custom stickers to make this look a little bit more screen accurate than the original Kenner X-Wing did, and we'll also do some other finishing touches on it. So I hope that's been of interest, and thanks for watching.